Good morning, everyone. Hello and welcome to Portfolio Room podcast, where we explore different trends impacting private equity industry today. And we have a special guest today, Paolo Vanoni, the CEO who worked within portfolio companies of Alto Partners Equity, Charterhouse Capital and Intesa, and currently a Chief Strategy and Finance Officer in Alperia. And me, private equity CFO specialist in Privatal. I'm head of Benelux and excited to have our conversation today. Paolo, please.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Gleb, for the introduction.
So today we're going to discuss the topic about fintech and cybersecurity in private equity industry, and Paolo has lots of experience in that. So, Paolo, can you elaborate on the key cybersecurity trends that private equity investors consider when evaluating potential investments in this industry?
Yes, sure. The actual and emerging trends that will impact growth and future profitability in this industry starts, of course, with the rise of artificial intelligence, AI. All the organization companies and also the public sector are increasingly turning to AI and machine learning to own their security infrastructure. There are significant and important cost saving in doing so, but also some important threats and risks. The risks are more connected, of course, to the natural language processing, the face detection, automatic threat detection, and so on and so forth. AI make possible, of course, to analyze a massive quantities of risk data to an impressive pace and speed. This is beneficial for a large company, but also for mid-sized and smaller companies whose security team might be under resourced. So if these are the opportunity, there are also significant risk for using this new technology. And so we have recorded recently several attacks to using data poisoning and model stealing techniques, also using AI as a major technology uh, issue. Another emerging, especially after the pandemic. So another emerging trend is the mobile cybersecurity and the remote working cybersecurity risk. The trend toward remote working is also accelerating the growth of a mobile. We experienced everyone. So
Mhm.
also in my case, I'm connected from my studio at home. So you can imagine how this will impact all the security issues on all our devices, the mobile
Yep.
devices. As a result, the mobile threats are growing and continue to grow. If we put that in connection also with the 5G technology, that is another emerging trend and technological trend in the industry, you can imagine the potential security
Mhm.
risks that we are facing as the vulnerabilities of our assets, infrastructure assets. Another
Yep.
important trend is the authentication. We have all to be identified and profiled when we enter in any application or in any work environment. MFA, what is the multi-factor authentication, is becoming the standard right now, but it
Mhm.
presents also severe vulnerability for activities such as online banking, where you have to authenticate to authentify often via SMS. This is a risk that the financial industry, for instance, is investing a lot on it. So application-based MFA could be a real trend in terms of security, but also in rise of the market. Data privacy and developing
Mhm.
regulation regarding data privacy is also another key issue for security. We know that there have been several cyber attacks that have led to exposure of millions of personally identified information. And so And so worldwide, we have seen an increase of law and regulations, such as the European GDPR, that are introducing new rules and new restrictions in terms of distribution of personal information, but also security of personal information. Connected also to the increase of the home working, or let's say, or the all activities connected with the mobile access and new infrastructure needed in companies to open their environment also to smart working. There has been another trend, that is the increase in cloud services and cloud security threat. Many applications have migrated to cloud services. So this is one of the biggest security trends in the industry: how to protect the clouds from the increasing attacks that they are facing. Connecting to that, there is also another that I will keep separate, but it's very well known, that is not a new threat, that is the rise of the ransomware. It's been, I don't know, probably 10 to 15 years that we experienced this kind of risk. Recently, probably is not so top one in all the metrics risk of several companies, but it's still a very important one, especially for the companies owned by private equity funds. That's because they do believe that there are deep pockets that probably the attacker could imagine that there are big pockets. So the rise of ransomware is still one of the trends. As we open our infrastructure to IoT, Internet of Things, and as I said, the 5G infrastructure that is strongly evolving, also the risk to opening that infrastructure is rising. It is estimated, as we saw all the figures that both Amazon Echo and Google Home have provided, that in few years, in the next 2 years, there will be some like 64 billion of devices connected to IoT or powered with IoT technology. This means a huge amount of automation and devices that could be armed and put under threat. I will list now the last that for me it's something that is still an emerging, not very well known, but could be a risk in the future, in the near future. I mean, it's a rise of automotive hacking. As modern vehicles are increasing now with the automated software, and that can control the cruise, the engine, door locking, airbags. So it can address also security issue inside the car for the assistant and the passenger. It's the risk that as these are connected vehicles to the network, to the internet, and can be automized using app on your mobiles, but they can also be hacked. So that is probably an emerging trend in the future, because this vehicle are using Bluetooth and Wi-Fi technology to communicate. I guess that are the main emerging and actual trends that I see now in the market and the industry.
And I think especially now, when at the times of economic instability, that everywhere conflicts arising, more and more governments, especially, not just the companies, they try to be more careful with the security, cybersecurity. They invest a lot into tech. So I see there is a big growth, which brings us to, second questions as well. How do you think private equity houses assess the scalability and growth of potential cybersecurity business? Because it easily, they could just buy a business which says that they're doing cybersecurity, but essentially they're just some software SaaS business. Like, how do you think that's assessed?
Yeah, I guess connected to the list of trend that I made before, I guess the first question that a private equity manager should make himself and make to their advisor, to his advisor, is the main business of the target company covering one or more of the trend listed before? If yes, how can you judge the positioning and the client portfolio of that company? Another question is, I guess, that could help in knowing if it's worth investing in that company, if the business is scalable and could be profitable in the future. Is the technology of the company cloud-based and offered as a service? As we know that one of the trend in the software industry as a whole is SaaS. So this is also the business model is also important. The technology model and business model and the architecture of the software. Also, it's very important in this industry, more probably than in other, that the management is proactive, identifying new trends and new technology. Another 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 aspect on which I know you are very familiar, Gleb, is the talent acquisition process of that target company can be defined as a success case inside the company and amongst peers. Is the company able to attract talent and to keep talent? That's also a quite important.
Yeah, this
I guess it's a key. It's a quick key question for. Yeah,
that's a question which everyone is trying. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
it's a key.
key.
It's a key issue for any
Yeah.
company in any industry, but I think especially in this extremely volatile, technology volatile industry is a priority. And another aspect that all the investment manager inside the PE fund is quite familiar is, are there possibilities of synergy within other companies of the portfolio? So the business can be scaled very, very quickly. That's, I think, are the 5 top questions that a PE fund manager should have in mind when
Yep.
approaching a company in this business.
And what would you say as well about the metrics and KPI in a
Yeah.
sense as well for measuring the
Yeah.
financial health? So talent makes sense, but like what metrics would you
Yeah,
put?
recently in Alperia, in my company, we have introduced also KPI, particularly critically for measuring the health of the security and cybersecurity inside the group. We have been assisted by Accenture. So Accenture has used several standardized KPIs that are provided by several new regulations, like the NYDFS, the New York Financial Security and cybersecurity regulations, but also European, such as the GDPR, the CPA, and whatever that are introducing data protection laws. So this standard KPIs cover several aspects. The first to be assessed is and to be rated somehow is the level of preparedness of the organization in terms of determination of the security posture, so to speak, how they call it, the security posture of the group, and the overall value of the cybersecurity program implemented or to be implemented inside the company. This under this umbrella of KPI, you can list a number of it, like the number of security incidents detected, the percentage of incidents prevented due to proactive security measure, the number of false positive and false negatives risk and alarms generated by security monitoring tools, the level of employee security awareness, the frequency of simulating phishing attacks, how many devices in your corporate network
Yep.
have the latest security patches installed, and so on and so forth. Another Another set of KPIs are under the umbrella of, let's say, the list or let's say inventory of an identified device on your internal networks. So what is the inventory of authorized device on your network, and how is it kept maintained and up to date? How many assets are in your network? How many of those assets are source sensitive, and so on and so forth. Another set of KPIs have at the scope of measuring the intrusion attempts. So how many intrusion attempts have been detected and blocked? What is the average time it takes to investigate or respond to detected intrusion attempt? What is the process for reporting intrusion attempts? How many authorized and unauthorized access attempts have been detected and blocked by your firewall? And so on. Another set of KPIs cover the topic of security incidents. So how many security incidents have been detected and resolved? How many successful cyber attacks have occurred in the past month or quarter or year or week or whatever? What types of incidents have occurred, and what was the impact of each incident? What metrics are used to track the incident response or resolution time, and how this metric used to improve the incident or response time. And especially for this, I try to understand how, especially, could possible to give also a monetary risk connected to this attempt or to this successful incident. Other metrics are more connected to the time, to the timing and the promptness in terms of timing to respond to threat. So there are KPIs intended to measure the mean time to detect the risk. Others that are measuring the mean time to resolve the risk, and the meantime to contain the risk. These are there are a set of indicators that will tell how much your organization security procedures are effectively and promptly taking into consideration the threats, the external threats. Another set of indicators that are, let's say, externally produced are the security ratings. So another aspect that we did was to perform with an external party a cybersecurity risk assessment, and also a risk assessment, and introduce a risk assessment process. It's important that after you do internally or in parallel, when you do this process of self-evaluation of your security strategies and processes inside, you cover also your value chain, so to speak. So it's important that also your, let's say, value chain landscape, especially in case of vendors on which you are relying a significant part of your value creation, have in place a security and the cybersecurity process. So also the assessment of the risk of your most strategic vendor is part of your metrics. Of evaluation of the total risk of your business, and should be taken into consideration. And then there are some other, let's say, more technical KPIs in terms of, for instance, the patching cadence. So how much frequently are security patches and updates released by your software vendors, by your internal IT department, how they are evaluated in terms of vulnerability and in terms of impact on existing processes, and so on and so forth. Other more technical are the access management. So what is the process that controls and monitor that any, let's say, privilege escalation in terms of access is prevented. We already talked about the multi-factor authentication as an emerging trend, but sometimes, or quite often actually, inside an organization, not all the accounts are secured with this technology that at present is the most efficient, probably in terms of security access control. And well, last I will say other indicators should cover how you benchmark your organization within a peer perimeter or a peer panel. So that's also important to have indicators that cover this aspect.
I see. And Polo, I mean, yeah, it's KPIs totally indicators a big thing now for companies, as especially everyone is trying to go through restructuring phase. You know that everyone's trying to increase the revenue, to increase the profit mainly, of course. And when you also, what's your opinion regarding when private equity house obviously buys cybersecurity companies? What challenges and opportunities arise when they integrate them within larger private equity portfolio? Is it interconnected in a sense of technology and security?
Yeah. As we said, I mean, the companies backed by PE usually is what also an FBI report says recently, that are more exposed to the cyber risk, for the possibility to have
Yeah,
access to the huge portfolio, huge wallet and deep pocket of the investor.
yeah.
So that's why it's a real emerging issue for many PE funds. I guess that PE firms can, however, turn the tide if they build a more comprehensive and, let's say, holistic cybersecurity strategy all throughout the portfolio of their company and following all the life cycle of their company, because we have to think that you have to start thinking about cybersecurity from the due diligence through the value creation phase, what we call it, the 3-5 years period in which a company is backed by this kind of investor, through the exit and also preparing the exit. So the actions that could be suggested or are already in place from many private equity funds is in the phase one, let's say in the due diligence phase, when you are approached and you are negotiating a deal to enter into a company, is to include cybersecurity strategy in your due diligence. So it's becoming a pre-acquisition diligence standard in these days. But you have also to think that cybersecurity is something that you have to, when the deal is signed, you have to start thinking also on how to introduce your standard of cybersecurity in a company when you do the onboarding of the company in your portfolio. This is important, for instance, to identify, and it's also important in the value creation phase, to identify a single focal person inside the company that can be addressed to the single focal person inside the
Yeah.
fund, to have direct contact in order to have a more effective communication and a more effective actions. It's also important to building information sharing communities between these companies and the fund in terms of sharing threats, but also best practices. And also, it's important that the fund could be able to providing threat intelligence to portfolio company. Again, another issue that I know you are quite familiar is always find the right talent for the right role in the right place with the right powers. So that's
It's it's not as easy. Yeah, it's not as easy as it sounds, but it is difficult to
Yeah,
find
yeah,
the
yeah,
right
yeah.
talent.
But you cannot
For sure.
rely completely on technology and processes. You have also to have
Yeah,
the right
exactly.
talent on place. And then, well,
Yep, I think without
oh,
yeah.
sorry, I interrupt you.
Sorry, just was I want to say yep. Even like the technology, but without the right people, this technology essentially doesn't work. Like it just so you need the people there who steer it towards
Yeah,
the right
I
directions.
cannot agree more. Some trends
Mm.
that we are seeing in the largest PE fund is that they are enlisting and support a lot of insurance broker. So they can offer also this service to their portfolio companies. So it's important to negotiate the right insurance coverage and to make it available to your listed company. Again, I insist also on education of all the managers, on the board members, not only on the manager, but also on the board members
Yep.
about the priority of cybersecurity. That is a business risk as any other. So these have to be treated as any other business risk. And then again, as it was important when a PE fund entered into a company, it's also important cybersecurity and having the right cybersecurity process and strategy in place implemented when you exit the company. So it's also I
Yep.
mean, it's becoming for the any buyer a primary deciding factor in determining the value and but also the interest of an investment.
Yep. Exactly. And also, what would be I kind of would ask two questions in one in that sense. How do you what are your first obviously key tasks when you in 100 days when you join the company under P ownership, and also how do you usually approach financial risk management and cybersecurity business within the private equity space? Because essentially, all the because it's not just any other portfolio, it is cybersecurity. So like exceptionally taking into account all the challenges associated with cyber
Yeah,
threats.
I guess as I said that I think that is important to stress, and the management have in mind that the board members have in mind that cyber risk is a form of business risk. So it's exactly have the same importance and have to be fully investigated and covered as any other business risk. So embed the first thing I guess is to embed the cybersecurity into your enterprise risk management framework. Define the sources of enterprise value across teams, process, and technology. So when you know where the value and how much is the value created amongst team, process, and technology, you can better understand the vulnerability and the magnitude, so to speak, of the risk connected to that, to teams, to process and technology, and which are the exposure to risk and how to mitigate it.
Yep.
So it's important to understand the vulnerability that covers people, processes, and technology, not only internally, but also for, as we said, uh, across your value chain and the third parties that can influence your positioning and the possibility to create value in the future. Understand the relevant threat actors, their capabilities, and their intent, link the control of in-run activities to the change program. Because usually we focus too much on the business as usual risk, and we don't see which risk, especially cyber risk, are in place when we implement a new program or we are changing existing programs. So that should be in mind. Map the enterprise risk and the risk management framework, just taking in accountability for all the key person in the organization. And as we said, having the risk of the KPI clearly in mind, and
Yep.
basically the standard KPIs, that some of that I mentioned before, that also help you to self-assess, or having a third-party rating assessment on on your organization. It's also important.
Sure. And I guess as you mentioned, Paulo, like you kind of briefly mentioned, across all the questions I asked that, about KPIs, assessing talent. How do you also communicate financial strategies and performance product to investors? Like, again, because the nature of the fintech industry is changing. Would you say it's completely different communication compared when you were, like, let's say, at the other business and the other industry completely, like at energy, for example? Would you say this is like investors are way more stricter compared to other
Yeah, we know that fintech is
in
a
terms of
fast
communication?
growing and combines diverse field of
Yeah.
technology and finance to create innovative solution that covers different sectors, but
Yeah.
also different client segments. Uh, so the first
Yeah.
step is to communicate effectively, which with all the different fintech audiences, in order to know who they are, what
Yeah.
they need, and what they expect to you. That is the basic of
Mhm.
of any communication. As I did so many years into investor relations, I know that PE investors are usually interested in understanding the profitability of their business and capacity of generating cash, but associated with the level of risk that the business is facing. So all the information that you provide to them must include at least these three dimensions: margin, cash flows, but also risk. And the risk dimension that is now emerging as a most important part of any interaction, any with investors, should include also visibility on the evolution of the market, and
Yep.
as in this case, in this industry, the high volatility of the technology should also improve, should also, yeah, provide insight on evolution and marketing positioning the following years, where the way out from an investment point of view is to be realized. So I guess now that
Yep.
most of the communication must be spent also on the risk dimension of the usual and traditional financial communications.
Especially now when all the everyone is again worrying about financials, transparency, transparent and
Yeah,
be clear. In that sense. Cool. Paolo, well, really thank you for stopping by today in our Portfolio Room podcast. I think it will be very beneficial for for individuals who uh, just started finance career in private equity already, quite far, and also investors. So I really just want to thank you for all the
my
for
pleasure.
your time and for the answers you
My
provided.
pleasure. Thank you, Gleb, and thank you to your audience.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
speak soon, Paolo.
Ciao. Bye bye.
Thank you.